Lavitaricca was a Dan and Phil body language analysis Tumblr blog that I frequented back when I was in high school. I believe I first encountered it sometime during 2014. As soon as I discovered it, I was instantly fascinated by it because it combined two topics that I was interested in, body language and YouTubers. I read their blog posts on a daily basis, and I honestly learned more than just the ins and outs of body language from them, as we'll see later on in this video. Lavitaricca was known for thoroughly explaining their thoughts and analysis in an easy way to understand. They were also often praised for conducting themselves in a relatively unbiased and neutral way. They would try to be as accurate as they could with the information they were given and would not falsify evidence just to please their audience of mostly Dan and Phil fans. This was during a time when Dan and Phil were one of the most popular people on the internet, as well as having an incredibly loyal fan base, so I can see why Lavitaricca chose Dan and Phil as their focus other than the reason that they were most likely a fan of the two themselves. Speculation surrounded the pair more than other YouTubers at the time. People from all over the world wondered what exactly was the nature of Dan and Phil's relationship, as well as how the puzzle pieces of their lives fit together. There were a lot of analysis blogs about them, but none of them were as consistent, concise, and logical as Lavitaricca. In this video, I want to guide you through the beginning, middle, and end of their story from my perspective. So let's dive in. In the beginning, Lavitaricca focused mainly on the body language of Dan and Phil and those who were closely associated with them at the time, such as Crabsticks and Kick the PJ. They made posts regarding specific moments, as well as answering any questions fans would have for them. They analyzed both current events as well as past famous/infamous moments. Despite the incredibly personal nature of their analysis, they managed to carry on without being overly invasive. They set clear boundaries for their blog and stated that they would take it down if Dan and Phil ever found it. I think this is why so many people gravitated towards them. They appreciated the overall sincerity Lavitaricca presented and their self-awareness of how their posts could potentially affect others. While Lavitaricca's work was not exactly to the extent of the body language analysts we see on YouTube today, it was a great starting point, and I genuinely still use the information I learned from their blog in my life currently. During this time, Lavitaricca's attitude towards Dan and Phil was very positive. They barely ever gave their opinions on anything outside of body language and stuck to analyzing what their specific evidence meant rather than thinking about what it implies. Of course, this would change very soon. The middle of Lavitaricca's story was a very important turning point for them and their blog. Not only did they analyze Dan, Phil, and those that were directly associated with them, but now they analyzed those who were loosely associated with them as well, such as Zoella, Alfie Days, Fun for Louie, Sprinkle of Glitter, and the rest of the so-called Gleam team. Along with this change, they also now started to provide commentary and criticism towards these YouTubers. Lavitaricca was more critical of those who were from the Gleam team, as they would often point out their seemingly manipulative tactics that they used in their parasocial relationships with their fans. Even Dan and Phil were not exempt from criticism at this time, with Lavitaricca pointing out their wrongdoings in the past that fans just seemed to gloss over and other problematic aspects of their online existence. However, it was a lot less harsh, and you could tell that their perception of Dan and Phil was still mostly positive. While they still focused on body language, I think their addition of critical commentary was a significant decision. Lavitaricca used the same methods that they used for body language onto other aspects of this group of creators, such as their content, their business decisions, and how they conducted their public relationships. It was clear that they placed a huge emphasis on authenticity. This was the quality they sought to verify through their analysis, and I think during this time they started to doubt the authenticity of Dan and Phil against their relatable and earnest reputations. I honestly want to thank Lavitaricca because it was their blog that taught me how to question the creators I was watching and never to take anything at face value. Their posts allowed me to see past the many layers and facades of YouTubers right into the dark underbelly of it all. Despite all of this, it seemed that Lavitaricca wanted the people they talked about to improve and do better. They still had hope for this community and wanted to see it thrive with the sincerity it had started with. At last, we come to the end of Lavitaricca's story. This chapter started around the time when Dan and Phil released their book, among other projects. Their posts during this time shifted completely from body language analysis to critical commentary. It was evident that they became unhappy and cynical towards the YouTube community, including Dan and Phil. They made it evident that they did not like or agree with their business decisions, and that Dan and Phil were simply exploiting their audience for money with more deception than others were. Furthermore, they seemed irritated that they were getting away with it due to their honest reputations and fiercely loyal fan base. Their opinion on Dan and Phil, the main focus of their blog, had soured immensely. One day when I came to check the blog, everything on it was deleted. Lavitaricca was gone and left us with these parting words. Apparently, the truth doesn't really matter. All that matters is entertainment value. This solidified for me that Lavitaricca cared about the truth, and when the YouTube community stopped being real, they left. Maybe out of anger, frustration, boredom, or a combination of multiple factors. Whatever the reason was, I found Lavitaricca leaving to be a powerful gesture, and I truly believe that they were ahead of their time. I hope you enjoyed this video and will stick around for the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Thank you for watching.